going to college to be a teacher, so I wanted to kind of talk about things that won't bother me as a teacher and why, and how I would do certain things. One, being late or tardy doesn't really bother me. I get it. Kids don't want to get up, they don't want to go to school. Two, they could be bullied. Three, there could be some familial issues that prevent them from being on time. Or they could be autistic or have any form of disability that could also make it harder for them to get up and go to school because of said disability or said issue. So being late or absent doesn't bother me because I don't know what's going on in your personal life, So if you're late, you're late. If you don't show up, you don't show up because, I can't, control everybody's circumstance, and I'm not going to get mad at you for having problems or issues that you don't want to talk about, you know. So being late or absent's not going to bother me. I can help you catch up. That's my job as a teacher, to teach and help. Not sit there and yell at you because you're late or absent, okay? I've had teachers like that. Another thing that I'm not going to sit here and berate little children about is their grades. I'm not going to do it. To me, grades are just a marker and an indicator of where you're struggling and where you're succeeding. If you're struggling, it's my job to correct that and help you learn it, because I'm a teacher. So I'm not going to make fun of you for your grades. I'm not going to say, oh, blah, 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 you're failing, If you're failing, it's probably I'm not explaining something clearly, and you need a bit of extra assistance and help, which is fine. As a teacher, that's your job. Teach and help. So no, I'm not going to sit there and hound kids about grades because, once again, it could just be they don't understand. Could be something going on at home preventing them from doing homework. Could be that, they're neurodivergent and, enough's enough at the end of the day. They don't have any energy left to do it. Once again, that's another thing that I'm not going to sit there and harp a bunch of children about. Another thing I'm not going to make a big deal out of as a teacher is if you need to calm down and collect yourself, because guess what? Everybody gets overwhelmed. Everybody gets overstimulated, and sometimes we just need to step out and take a breather and relax and regulate our nervous system and then go back to what we're doing. Thank you, and happy birthday. So that's another thing I'm not going to be mad at a kid about, okay? Because their brain is not fully developed like an adult's brain. So I'm not going to expect a child to calmly handle, a conflict because they're a kid. They think with their emotional part of their brain, not their logical part. Because in order for the logical part of their brain to be working, they have to be calm and regulated. Well, if you're upset, that part of your brain is off limits. It no longer functions. Now you're stuck in your fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. And most kids are going to go into fight, and they're going to just melt down because their brain cannot comprehend these big emotions that they're feeling. So I'm never going to get mad at a kid for having a meltdown because, that's part of being a kid. You can't understand these big emotions that you feel. So I'm not currently teaching yet. I'm in college to be a teacher, but the grades I want to teach are grades 2, 3, and 4. Another thing I'm not going to get mad at students about is, if they forgot their homework, okay? Some days I forget things I need for college, so I'm definitely not going to get mad at, a 7 or 8-year-old who forgot their homework at home, okay? Big whoop. People leave things at home all the time. I one day left my freaking Chromebook at home. You know what? That was my fault. I forgot, But yelling at a kid for forgetting something is not going to do you any good. Because at that point, now they're just upset. Now they feel bad. And now they no longer want to do anything because you're fussing at them or yelling at them because they forgot something, okay? Adults forget things all the time. You can't have a double standard. Oh, it's okay if an adult forgets something, but it's the end of the universe when a child forgets it, you know? You can't have that double standard. Kids are going to forget. Kids are going to be kids. They're going to be rowdy. They're going to misbehave. But at the same time, you have to know where to draw that line of, okay, now this is not okay. We need to figure out a solution. And, okay, this is a once in a while slip up. It's fine. Same with kids being little meanies towards each other. You got to be able to differentiate when they're playing with each other and when they're being rude and it's crossing into bullying territory. It's one thing I will not stand for as a teacher. We are not going to bully. We are not going to put hands on each other. That is not what we do. Bullying and putting hands on somebody is not the way to solve your problem, even if you're upset. Another thing I'm not going to get mad at students about is, wow, that's crazy. I feel bad because I've had teachers yell at me a lot for things over the years too. And I can't do that. I can't bring myself to yell at a child. It's a literal child. Their brain is still developing. I'm not going to yell at a child like somebody yelled at me. Okay, that's actually funny because I have a phoenix on my arm. Yeah, I still have a teddy bear. But, anyways, as I was saying, I'm not going to yell at a child for doing child things, okay? Children forget things. Children are silly. Children are gonna do things that adults aren't gonna understand. But at the same time, as a teacher and an educator, your job is not to sit there and yell at kids for making mistakes. Your job as a teacher, ciao Charlie, your job as a teacher is to educate and help the children grow and learn into adults that can function in society. If you're too busy yelling at a child, their brain shuts down. They are no longer going to be receptive to learning because now their nervous system is going, danger, 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 this person is dangerous. No, you can't. And a lot of teachers don't get that. I get it. They're going to be loud. Kids are going to be loud, and, as a teacher, that's one thing you kind of sign up for. No kid has ever sat there and went. No kid in the history of ever has done that. Okay, kids are going to be loud, they're going to be messy. But one thing you got to do is set rules. But like I said, I'm never going to yell at a kid because they're a kid. That's just wrong to yell and scream and cuss at a child. That is a literal child who is still developing. 2, I'm never going to be mad at a kid who's late or absent. I don't know their home life. I don't know what they're dealing with and what they're going through. So I'm never going to be mad at a kid for being absent or late. I'm never going to be mad at a kid for forgetting homework. 1, kids forget things all the time. 2, if they're in a rush or they have after-school activities, they're probably going to forget to do it. Okay? Things happen. Life happens. Situations happen. I'm never going to get mad at a kid for expressing their emotions because everybody has feelings. Everybody has big feelings that sometimes they don't understand how to communicate. And kids are going to have meltdowns. Kids are going to get angry. Kids are going to scream. Kids are going to cry. That's okay because that is their nervous system's way of learning how to deal with these feelings. So I'm never going to get mad at a kid for being a child because that's what they are, a child. Am I going to have rules for them? Absolutely. Am I going to teach them responsibility? Absolutely. But at the same time, I'm not going to berate a child for doing childish things, because they're still developing. Their brain is not fully developed. So why would I yell at a child for doing something that a child would do? That makes no sense. Because now you're confusing the child. Because now, You're saying, why can't you be more mature? Why can't you blah, 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 blah? Okay, but they're a child, so they're going to act as a child. And a lot of people don't get that. So to me, grades aren't a big deal. I can help you because to me, grades are an indicator of what you need to help with and what you already know. Test scores are going to help me adjust how I teach and what methods I use so I can help you get to where you're at. I'm never going to yell at you for, having late work. I'm never going to yell at a kid for being late. It's not my business unless they make it my business or the parent makes it my business. I'm never going to be mad at a kid for having a meltdown. I get it. Life is overwhelming and sometimes you can't take it and you just start, and it doesn't stop. Okay, I get that 100%. I'm the same way. But I'm never going to, be mean to a kid. I'm never going to yell at a kid. I'm never going to do a lot of things that some teachers do. I've had several teachers that would cuss us out. Why would you cuss out a child? That's not right. I would never cuss out a child because if I have a problem, exactly, I will have boundaries and rules in my classroom, but I will never, be a jerk to a child because, well, a child's a child. If I have a problem with said child, I will talk to the parents because that's the parents' job to correct the child's behavior. But like I said, I will never be mad at a kid for certain things because some things are out of their control. Being late, that's oftentimes out of their control. They don't control the bus driver. They don't control when their parents get off of work or go to work. They don't control who does and doesn't take them to school. Being late or absent, that's not something the child themselves can control. That is the environment around them, the adults, or whoever's responsibility it is to take them to and from school. So I'm never going to be mad at a kid for being late or absent because, once again, that's 100% out of their control. They cannot control the adults in their life. So if you're late, you're late. If you're absent, you're absent. Let's get you back caught up where you need to be. Because to me, it's not a big deal. And oftentimes, if a kid is missing a lot of school, there's an underlying cause that needs to be figured out. So once again, I don't know their home life, so I'm not going to fuss. I was late a lot too, so simple as that.